Hello and welcome to the Inforunners. My name is Paul Berserker01, Batman Shelley, and I'm joined today with Execute. We're going to be talking a little bit of informed, how do you say it? Theory crafting? A little informed theory crafting. So
Speculation.
And it's speculation. I'll start us off with a little bit more of before this, just because this is, how are you doing, Execute? You doing okay?
It's been a shit week. I'm gonna be honest.
It's been a bad week.
Yeah, and I know you've had one as well. So yeah, it's just been a shit week. In general,
we'll try to be positive during this one. We'll try to be a little bit more upbeat. But just note that if we look a little down or look a little tired, there's a reason, and it's not you guys. It's nothing else.
The way I know that I'm having a bad week is when other people keep asking, "How are you doing? You okay?"
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit, like there's something wrong.
There's something wrong.
Yeah.
So this topic is something that I actually chose, which is unusual. I don't usually get to choose topics for the channel. So this is
I take all on board. I do. I really do.
Yeah.
But anyway.
But this is the first one that's actually been like straight from me.
So first good one.
Inforunner.
First good one.
Yeah, the first good one. The first good one that I got.
No,
so let's walk. I'm going to walk you all down to the primrose path to kind of start this off with this one. So this idea came from many different ideas, but we found out that there was an update to the progress tracker, which seemed to be alphabetical. And one of the some of the updates to the progress tracker for the alphabetical included unknown vehicles. So the thing is, the unknown vehicle was placed in the row, but it wasn't placed under you. It was placed dispersed amongst the alphabetical order. Thus, if you know what a vehicle is, and you see an unknown vehicle and it's next to A, you can assume that it's a POA or Argo, because it was obvious that they sorted it by alphabetic order, then went back to the ships that were not supposed to be out, and they changed the name to unknown vehicle. So, and that was changed. That's now no longer the case, but this was, a couple people got screenshots. And so we were able to get the general gist of about 5 different ships. So because of this, we decided that we'd look at those ships and see which of those ships would most likely make it to Invictus. I'm sure Execute's going to be showing you guys the pictures here very, very shortly.
I'm doing it on the fly, so yeah, keep going.
Just to kind of show. Now, for those of you who've never seen Invictus before, Invictus is only military ships. There's a bunch of lore reasons behind it, but essentially it's, whereas the IAE, or the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo, is all ships, Invictus is specifically military ships, specifically things related to the military. As a result, we can narrow down a couple of these ships to figure out, based off of release and based off of their manufacturers, and we can get a little bit more. So this is like, for instance, the good example of the C ship. If you see how this works, you see the Ares, the Hercules, then a cutting tool, then the medical tool, and then unannounced. And then it goes from that to cutting tool.
So it's definitely got to be a CU type ship.
It's some sort of CU ship. And you say, oh, Crusader or Consolidated Outlands. The problem about that ship, that is that it's CN is how it's or CO, con if it was spelled out, which doesn't really work like that. So it has to be some sort of CR that's after Crusader, which we don't know a manufacturer that does that. So we'll go through that a little bit.
We'll go through that, yeah. I normally prepared for stuff like that, but I thought we'll just wing it. It's one of those
we'll wing
weeks.
It a little bit.
We did say
it's one of those weeks, guys.
The other thing I do want to say real quick that we forgot to say at the start is I do want to talk about #Jaden as well. We forgot to mention that. So Jaden or Eric Lanza unfortunately passed away, and his friend is looking for a new home. So if you're interested in an F7A upgrade and a Super Hornet, and the F7As are really expensive at the moment, they're like $350. So if you're looking at winning one of those, just subscribe and have #Jaden in one of your below. Right. back to the regular standard program.
So I'm going to go over the list, or do you want to go over the list of the ships that were listed that we have an idea for, the alphabetical list?
I'll let you take this because, again, I still struggled with it because it was text-based, and I'm a very, very, very visual guy, but I know that the first one was Argo for me.
It's an A, and it's coming out in April, and it was going to take 12 weeks. It would be finished in April, and take 12 weeks. So there's two ships that it could be. It could either be an Argo or a POA. But if it's finished in April, that means that it should be released either for Invictus or for 314. And Argo makes more sense than a POA. There's really nothing that says that this might be a POA. Then we've got a B. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, with a lot of this stuff, we're connecting the dots with stuff that's already on the roadmap. So we'll go into that into each detail as we talk about each ship. But go into B. Yeah. So
B is, we don't know, but it starts in December, and it's a 52-week cycle. So a lot of people are saying Banner Merchantman, which would match up with what they're already currently planning.
Yeah.
Then you've got the C. We already talked about the C after CR. We don't know what that is, but we have a theory, which we're going to propose here as well. I'll let X talk about that one because this is more of his crazy conspiracy, looking at all the wall.
Don't put a tinfoil hat on me, boy. This was as much yours as it was mine. Don't you throw me out the bus?
Okay, we're both Alex Jones. Okay, the Hollow Earth theory is true. Yeah. Godzilla's coming after you. So then there's an O, which obviously has to be Origin, and the last one is an R, which, I mean, what other ships is there than RSI? The O is the C after CR is actually coming out in September. It's finishing up in September. The O, which the Origin ship, is going to be finished in July after 26 weeks, and then you have the or starting in July, I guess. And then you've got RSI, which is May, but after 18 weeks. So,
and
these all...
I was just going to say, and one of the reasons we titled this episode New Ships of Invictus is we're half expecting that one of these will come out, and kind of like last year where they announced the Talon, and then you could buy the Talon, we're probably expecting that one in September will probably be Talon-esque, as in it'll be ready for sale towards the end of
for flight,
for release, or flight as you call it.
Yeah, it's flight ready or release ready or whatever that they want to say it now. But so because it's a big sale, they tend to do two big concept sales per big sale. Like the IAE usually has two, or CitizenCon will have some. So something similar. That's the theory we're working on.
Yep.
Now I'll start us off with
which one do you want to start with?
I'll start with the Argo.
Yep, go for it.
And I'll let you do the next one because
Argo
is. Dear viewer, let me step back. Let's take a look at 313. Let's take a look at the ships that are coming out with 313. We have the Cyclone MT and the Rock DS. Both which are just add-on / slight changes to the previous vessels. So that, I think, is a good indication of where we're going to be going this year. Probably not a lot of new ships, but a lot of sort of new ships cobbled together from old ships because it's easier to make.
You can also look at... I was just saying, you can also look at last year as well. All the new ships we got were single-seat fighters. They were relatively low effort because they, in core reasons, COVID, Squadron 42 is moving along, whatever, but they were low effort. And this year feels even more low effort based on just what you were saying there, and I agree. But continue. Sorry.
It feels little. So, as a result, I have a theory, which is something that even Algrid has talked about in the past, which is the Argo is supposed to have two different modules that we haven't seen yet. One of which is kind of like a salvage module, which was hinted at one point, but the other one, which is 100% sure going to be in the game and is probably going to be needed for Squadron 42, is the Argo MPVU Search and Rescue module. So for those of you guys who don't know about the Argo, each of the Argos is actually just a different module attached to the bottom. They'll be able to hot swap out the different modules, which is probably one of the reasons why module swapping is in for this year, because you need that module swapping out, and that module swapping is for Squadron. So it makes sense that they would sell the MPVU Search and Rescue because it's heading towards gold towards the middle of this year. So it's going to be ready for Squadron 42. They haven't released the Search and Rescue yet, and they need to for Squadron 42. And what's coming out in 314? But medical gameplay.
Yep.
And those sorts of things. So I think that the MPVU Search and Rescue module is one of those ships, and it will almost certainly be for sale at Invictus as a either quick LTI or for those people who want to do search and rescue stuff. So
it's pretty low effort too, because like as you said with the module, it's just that one room that's really the change. And from what I see, you give me your take on it too. But maybe it calls in the RSI stretcher technology as well, or whoever makes that, and so basically it can, and maybe a tractor beam. That's all I see. I basically see like a tractor beam and a room with a bed, and basically the room with a bed could also be for medical transport, so you could transfer between, say, two Idrises, or an Idris and an Endeavour, or whatever. That's
exactly
what I see that as, because that is the transport ship for the Idris.
Yeah, and because it's a module, you can literally have a Argo come in, drop the pod off, and then fly away, and then you can have medical personnel come up and pick it up pretty easily, or pick up another module and fly off. So it's pretty simple because they already have all the tools for it. They've already built out the module exterior. All they have to do is change out the interior. So it's low effort, something that fits with gameplay and fits with Squadron 42. So I would almost 100% be assured. I'm probably wrong. You're probably watching this out of Invictus and are like, "Oh, they're wrong." It's like, I'm not wrong. All of you owe me a beer. That's.
I look. I think at the very least, if it doesn't come now, that ship has to come later. So
yeah,
low hanging fruit at least, I would say. So yeah.
Why don't you tell us about the next one?
So the next one, we obviously, this is probably the most speculatory of each. But again, if you're looking at the list of names, it has to be after Crusader. Now, the only company that, and this was brought up by one of our supporters, Dark Winter, the only company we could find at the time was Cure Life that fits into that analogy. And we thought, what if it was not actually a ship, but a vehicle? We've got caves on the way. We know that you can currently find a dead body in a cave. So what if you take the RSI stretcher technology, put that into and I'm just giving a visual here, it could be different, a modified RSI Ursa, where you strip out the back 3 seats on that one side wall and you put in a stretcher, and basically you can then send out the stretcher, pick them up, bring them back on the stretcher, put it in. We know they've got the hand trolleys in. We know they've reworked hover tech really recently. You can start to connect some of the dots here. Puts the stretcher in, you drive it back, put it in any ship, put it in a Carrack, put it in a Connie, put it in, an Origin 600i, whatever, fly it back. We know they're working on hospitals right now. See, like, there's a lot of dots that connect here, and you deliver it, and there's your first level of tier 0 medical quests, so to speak. And I can also see, as I said to Paul, some kind of thing to do with the roof, where the roof opens or something, and the Apollo can literally suck the stretcher straight out of the they're both RSI. Like, it's a no-brainer where same company has cool little things that work together. We've seen it with the Banu, we've seen it with we've seen it with Origin, and we've also seen it with Drake, where they have synergy between the different vehicles that they own. I think it is quite possibly that. If anyone else can think of a manufacturer that is after Crusader in the CR series that is not Cure Life, I'd be really surprised. And it might not be a Cure Life vehicle, but it could be, and the thing I pitched to Paul was, we've seen collaborations before, like the Gemini between Aegis and Misk. So it's,
or even Crusader Ares, which is a combination of Bearing and Crusader.
There you go.
So
yeah. So we what Paul's saying there essentially is, we have seen it between tool companies and ship companies, or in that case weapons, but having a medical based, because they're at the moment they're only a tool manufacturer. They only make like all the medical devices, but there's nothing to say that stretcher is not a Cure Life stretcher. We've never seen who makes it. You know what I mean? So it
Yeah.
could be that's the tech that RSI use. They build the ship and Kill Life outfits it. And you see that in real life too, where a company builds like the plane and then another company comes in and they outfit and turn it into a hospital plane or whatever.
And we already know that RSI does that with Kruger because they have they outsource a lot of their parts to Kruger for that's how we got the Merlin.
So we know they're a company that likes to collaborate. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. So and even if it's not the sucking up all the way the door open, if it's a modular stretcher, you can easily just move it out of the Ursa, and now boom, right there, it's outside, ready for the Apollo to pick it up. So it's even like a wombo combo package.
Even if it's as simple as opening the back door and it just sucks it out the back door, you know?
Yeah.
Because we still don't quite understand how those stretchers work. I'm expecting them to be akin to a drone where you control it's got some kind of camera on it and you fly it right up and it might have a camera on the back so you can actually see and you kind of attach it around someone and it just kind of like sucks them in. But again, that's a wait and see gameplay. I think the first initial version of it won't be the drone stretcher. I think it'll be more like a stretcher that you can just push and pull around, but it hovers. So maybe they've got a low budget version of the one that the Apollo has with the drone. But I can see that there's not a lot of gameplay dots to connect there. Like it's just connecting what they already have together, and you have that quest. So that again, as we said for the other one, low hanging fruit. It is a low hanging fruit that gives you a new feeling of gameplay. But is it really that new? Instead of a box, you're delivering a human. You can see where I'm going with it. Like it makes a lot of sense.
It adds some purpose for people to have those vehicles, and it's no different from what we already have with the Cutlass Red. It's basically the same kind of tech. So it's easy quote unquote for them to implement, and following the dots they've already built in terms of tech that they've already built, it makes a lot of sense.
And you could even see that as a vehicle in Squadron 42 potentially as well. Like I can see certain things that need to come into the game, and there is definitely a gap there for medical gameplay, and a search and rescue / ambulance that's on the ground, especially when we know that there's now caves that only vehicles can go in that a ship can't get into. There's going to be people want to play that medical gameplay, and after the last episodes I did last week, like my brain is completely open to medical. Like I feel like I was very not aware of the possibilities of that, and drinking with gamers and Osiris definitely opened up my eyes to that last week. The last one here, before we kind of go into it, we know what ships they're working on this year. So if you look at last year's, they worked on a lot of Crusader ships, and we saw concepts for a lot of Crusader ships come out. This year, we know they're working on the Polaris and RSI. So again, we just did talk about an RSI Ursa rover potential variant, or it could be a whole new rover. We don't know. But low-hanging fruit. So I'll let you take it away here, Paul. But yeah, think of RSI, and we know that they're working on RSI stuff at the moment.
They're working on assets for RSI, and they've already built a large asset library already for things like the Mantis and the Mantis is the big one.
And how popular the look of that Mantis was when it came out.
Everyone wanted another version of the Mantis that was exploration or medical or combat. So, but just swap out those things. So, I'll step through this and say that there was a lore piece. This is where this comes from, because I'm a lore guy, and I tend to look at lore as a basis for a lot of things, because there's a lot of times you can look at lore and see where their thinking is because they start writing a story about it or an article. So, back when they first were talking about the F8 Lightning, the F8 Lightning was adopted by the UEE military during a trial run, but it was facing off against 3 other ships. One of those ships was the Sabre, and the other of those ships was the Rsi Black Widow. So the Sabre lost, obviously, but they released the Sabre as a ship anyways, and it's actually in active service with the UEE military as well.
Yeah.
The Lightning we know is coming out, and it's already, models in the game. It's going to be a ship in Squad 42. Makes sense. So the only of those 3 ships that hasn't made it out is the Rsi Black Widow. Now, there are no fighters in the Rsi line. None released yet. And based off of the fact that the RSI Black Widow was going up against the Lightning, it means that it's a medium or heavy fighter, probably more on the heavy side.
Yep.
So with this speculation that the RSI is coming out, and that it's coming out based off of the release date, maybe sometime in May, or starting sometime in May.
Invictus is
in May. So RSI Black Widow is what I'm predicting, is that this is going to be a heavy fighter that is the Black Widow.
And you can see the aesthetic of that spider look too. Like, we've got a picture of the F8 Lightning over here, but you can see that style of a heavy fighter carried over to a spider type aesthetic, and you can see it. Like, it would be cool. When we were talking with the supporters before, like the glass canopy, the look of the front of the, you know, the Connie and stuff, that Mantis, into a fighter. Yeah. So you got, and the Mantis, that's right. That big open cockpit of the Mantis would be really popular.
It kind of looks like a lot of different eyes too, especially if it's cast against a black and red skin.
The way I kind of go ahead. The way I would kind of picture it is like like a Star Trek fighter. I think it would be really popular because people love that Star Trek aesthetic of the Mantis, and I think that will carry over really well.
Yeah. So it's just in general, like, and there's lots of different themes you could go with that. I mean, CIG could say that there are 8 guns, hence the 8 legs for a spider. So you have a couple big guns, a couple small guns. You could have just a couple big guns, and you could say it's a spider, so it has a web. You could add things like EMP or a QED device or a snare. There's lots
entanglement of really fits with web aesthetics, does it not? I remember at one point I even brought up like an E-warfare ship because again it leads into that. Look at the Mantis, you know, the insect vibe. So they've gone Mantis for entanglement, and a lot of people talked about, oh, that tread on the Mantis so much, but we know they've brought out ships that have treaded on others before, and they tend to bring the worst one out first and the better one later.
And it would tread a little bit, but the blue already treads on that as well because it also has a QED device. So
I think it's like, honestly, how many like ships do you think we're going to see with entanglement devices? Quite a lot. I don't think there's going to be just 2. I think there's probably, and I'm talking like I'm waiting to see a large one, but maybe 10, like across the whole scale from capital to small. That's what I'm kind of expecting. We haven't even seen a large E-warfare ship. What the hell's that going to be like? The RSI Stingray, and it's just like this massive. I digress,
but that's the point. Is that like RSI is one of those manufacturers which has supposedly been around in the universe for hundreds of years, and it makes the Bengal, it makes the Polaris, it even makes the Perseus, but it doesn't make any small fighter craft or small to medium ships which are combat based. That doesn't make a lot of sense. This is an RSI ship,
especially from the creators of the Zeus and stuff like that. They've been there from the beginning. There is no way that these guys don't have a fighter. It just makes no sense
that they don't have a fighter, that the UE at least has one fighter. And you know, if you have something that is more entanglement based or has an EMP or something along those lines, there's not many military issue fighters that have those. The Mantis is used by law enforcement, but maybe this is something similar. Like this is designed as a ship that is a heavy fighter that goes in with other fighters as a semi-support ship to help slow down or snare ships and help the lighter ships come in, kind of like a lasso ship that comes in and slows down a ship while everything else comes in and takes it down. Who knows? Like, these are all just kind of spitballing at this point, but I still think it's a solid idea that we will see an RSI ship, and that if we're seeing an RSI ship, it's likely going to be a new ship, and if that new ship is anything, it's going to be a fighter. Because it matches up perfectly.
I lean more towards that heavy fighter aesthetic like you do, because I just think the lineup is so packed at the moment, and you can clearly see they've sold off a lot of the light, and then they've gone to medium, and now they're pushing into the heavy territory. So with things like the Warden and the Vanguard, and the Hercules is that was initially meant to be a heavy fighter, came out as a complete glass cannon. We've had the Ares come out, so there are a few there. We've had the F8 Lighting being announced. I think there is another room now. Like, again, they're more utilitarian type of the bigger ones. we're getting to the point now where they've got to bring out an actual substantial combat competitor to that F8 line. And I think this could be it.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, it's Chris Roberts. Why wouldn't it want to be one of the best, or almost the best heavy fighter in the entire game?
It's got his name on it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And how long ago, we were talking about this before the show too, like how many different I think I've seen at least 4 or 5 different fan versions of an RSI fighter at this point.
Yeah. It was one of the first ever fan ship made things was like the Wasp, which was like a light fighter version of an Aurora, an up armored up gun version of an Aurora. So like there's always tons of people who want to see the RSI aesthetic, the Star Trek aesthetic, but in a fighter form. And you've got a perfect starting point with a Mantis. You just throw some big chunky wings on that bad boy and some big guns or some sort of gimmick, and you get yourself a nice heavy fighter that will differentiate itself from other ships. So
I think we'll just
again. I think the timeline matches up because the one thing that's important to think, and this is, I'm going to reiterate this and kind of emphasize this before we finish up, which is Invictus is a big sale, and they never do a big sale without a concept ship of some kind. Even if it's straight to flyable, they do a big concept ship. And since Invictus did so well last year, and I think they only had like 1 or 2 ships, I heavily suspect that they're going to make sure to have at least 2 ships for concept, simply because money. It's leaving money on the table.
It also really makes sense that it's a fighter because it's Invictus and it's military. Like that alone, like there are other ships on the roadmap too. Like we saw the final art pass for the Redeemer this week has been done, but that ship's not due for another 6 months. But like, and then you've got the 400i that's also going through the final art pass. But it's like, well, which one are you more likely to see now? And I would say the Redeemer, but we don't know what they're going to do. All you can do is take educated guesses, and one of the best educated guesses we've been able to do is because of that list. It's really limited it into what it can be. I know a lot of people don't like speculation, but this, as Paul said at the start, this is highly education based. Speculation.
If that initial premise seems to be true, then everything we said falls into place pretty well for that. Unless there's a couple of wild cards. We could see ships that are completely new. We could see some new ships manufacturers with A or B or C. But based off of what we've seen so far with CIG's kind of desire, like how they're going to be designing and building things, even if looking at the roadmap in terms of the ships they're releasing, they're not looking to rock the boat. They're looking to keep things simple and stay the course with what they have and try to use bits and pieces of other ships or their own original designs and kind of continue on. There's not a lot of drive for new stuff.
And fill out what they have. So, like we know they tried to work on a prototype Argo ship last year, that disc one they show off last year. We know they're trying to fill out Consolidated Outland because they've only got 3 ships now. Argo needs filling out. I know Argo talks about Kruger a lot, like how it's only got 2 ships, so they need to be filled out more and stuff like that. So I'll just re-summarize. So in short, we're expecting potentially, these are all potential, right? So they are speculatory, but they're very a lot of evidence to back these up. So an Argo medical pod to swap on the MPUV or whatever it's called. A potential RSI medical rover. And then an RSI, I'm going to call heavy fighter, but I will just say fighter to be safe. But I would love to see a heavy fighter, and I think most people would lean more towards the heavy.
Yeah, I'd almost bet on it being a heavy fighter. If it's a fighter, it's going to be a heavy fighter. That's not going to be a light fighter. It might be a medium fighter, but most likely a heavy.
Let's be honest. Even the Aurora, they look like they have a weight to them. Do you know what I mean? They look heavy and solid.
Chunky.
They're chunky.
They brick house. Yeah.
They got big butts. No.
Yeah.
But so I expect that, especially with the way the cabs are done with those big glass canopies, they just look more chunky and more weighty, and I think that aesthetic leads itself more to a heavy fighter than something more. Hey, but we could be wrong.
Could be wrong.
I'd like to know in the comments below your guys' thoughts. Especially, you have to go through and look at that list and realize that there can only be certain ship manufacturer names. And once you do that, it really does start to pull it into aesthetics. Again, using the roadmap, it shows you what they're working on this year, and that's why there's 2 medical ones on there. And the RSI fighter being for Invictus just makes a lot of sense. They're definitely going to have a military ship, and I don't see a military ship coming from Argo anytime soon. But correct me if you think I'm wrong.
Well, I will also add one more thing, which is the reason why Argo, it also makes sense, is that there is no Drake doesn't work with the military. So there is no Drake Cutlass Red cannot work in the military, so they have to have something different, and the Argo search and rescue module makes sense for that kind of situation.
They are so
I to add that. I was going to add that in.
They're so hardcore about that Paul, that they basically slap Drake like a little bitch off into their own room at the Invictus sale. Like like how no, you can't hang in with us, you unsavory, uncouth people. And they, you know, like, I just found that really weird that that's literally a law thing that's like hardcore in it. Not because it would have been easier for them just to slap a coat of paint and put it in the same room, but no, they do all that extra work and push it out into another part of the pavilion, which I just found really kind of strange. So the law is actually making extra work, but anyway. All right then, I think we'll kind of wrap it up there. Is there anything you'd like to see in the comments, Paul, from people? Just thoughts on what they think, or what other things they think it could be, or
hashtag Jaden, obviously, but
I'll bring that up. Hold on.
Also, let us know what are your thoughts on the Invictus sale? What would you like to see out of this? New ships. I know everyone's got kind of fighter fatigue, but what if you're going to say military ship?
You think, Paul? You think?
if you're going to see a military ship in Invictus, what type of military ship would you see? Like, what would you like to see in terms of that? Maybe not be a fighter, but still be military oriented.
And this is a really good one to speculate on, because you have to speculate on certain companies. You have to, because that list shows you that. So normally when you go into wild speculation, I wouldn't call this wild speculation, because it's literally saying, show me a ship that starts with A that's coming out then. Show me a ship that starts with it has to be after CR, but it's C related. So the only company is Cure Life, right? So like, and then it's the same thing. Show me a ship from RSI, and you kind of go through that, and you know, you also look at last year where they all did, you know, little fighters. We didn't see anything real big for them last year. We didn't see a capital ship. We didn't see anything like really, really big. And I think that's kind of a sign of that the times we're in. I'll leave it at that. But, all right then. He's been Astropub, I've been Execute, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.
See you in the black.